Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking all things food labels and really what a con some of these things are. Food labels should be there to help better guide us to make, better decisions, obviously, when it comes to our food. However, this really just isn't the case, and a lot of them really just pull the wool over people's eyes and trick the consumer into thinking they're making that healthier choice when actually it really probably isn't the best option. So today I'm going to be breaking down all the common food labels, discussing things that you should be looking out for. Really, my goal is just to help support you guys become more conscious consumers, and yeah, just know your stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, pick up that packet and you're like, no, not fooling me today. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please do give it a thumbs up if you do enjoy it and find it helpful. And yeah, let's just jump straight on into it. Okay, so we're gonna kick it off with probably the biggest thing that makes me the most is sugar-free or no added sugar. Lots of things to say on this topic. We're gonna start off with the sugar-free side. Now, my issue with sugar-free, firstly, is sweeteners, okay? So let's talk about these. When you go for a sugar-free option, yes, it may not have any added like cane sugar, like actual white sugar into that product. However, it still needs to taste sweet. Like when you eat that product, you're still gonna get that sweet sensation. So what do? They ramp it up with a load of artificial sweeteners. Now, why do I hate these? Purely because they send so many mixed messages to the body. If we go back to the function on how our body responds to sugar, so when we eat glucose, we release insulin, and that insulin goes and finds that glucose, and it stores it away. Now, what happens when we have artificial sweeteners? The insulin is released because the body's like, oh, there's sugar in the body. Insulin goes out to find that sugar. Hang on a minute, there's nothing there because it's all artificial sweeteners. So there isn't actually any glucose for the insulin to bind to. So what are we left with? We're left with elevated levels of insulin in our body, which haven't gone to any purpose, which then can also cause more mixed messages to that whole system, and the body thinks, hang on a minute, there's still glucose there and the insulin hasn't put it away. So it's like, let's produce more insulin. And it's just so disrupted, and it just sends all the wrong chemical signals. So yeah, I'm really anti sweeteners. Honestly, like if you are choosing between like take Coke for example. I mean, I'm not recommending Coke, but this is just a good example. Like if you're gonna opt between like a diet-free Coke or the regular Coke, you're better off just getting regular, because at least when you have the glucose, there's something for the body to actually bind to, respond to, and the body can kind of somewhat know what to do with it. Artificial sweeteners, it's like, it's just filling the body with all this foreign substance that the body's like, what the hell do I do with this? Okay, so now let's move to no added sugar. Now, as consumers, when we see no added sugar on a packet, our brain quickly jumps to, oh, no sugar. Like that's how we process that. But we've got to take a step back for a moment. It says no added sugar. It doesn't mean that that product doesn't have natural sugars in it. So let's say a date bar, okay? Dates naturally are quite high in sugar. And we could have a date and nut bar, which is, yeah, all just made out of like natural ingredients, etc. And they'll say on the front, no added sugar, because it's referring to there's no added syrups, no added, like, actual white refined sugar into it, etc. That's how they get away with putting that on the packet. However, if you flip that product over and actually look at how much natural occurring sugars are in that product, it still could be very high. So don't be fooled when you instantly see no added sugar. Turn it over, look at that ingredient list, and look at the nutrition values. And another little tip as well is look at the serving size. That's another way that they kind of get you on food labels, is they'll put like a smaller serving size. So then when you see that sugar number, you're like, oh, that's not too bad. And then you eat a whole bar and then you realize actually it's probably 5 times the amount on that little nutrition label. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch on is vegan and plant-based. Now, this isn't anything about the diets. Diets are great, okay? But this is a bit of a double-edged sword as well in this area, because more and more people over the last year in particular have switched more to like a vegan and plant-based lifestyle and diet. However, marketing and food labels have really noticed that and started to take advantage of it. Now, the reason I'm including these labels in today's video is because a lot of vegan and plant-based foods actually are heavily heavily processed. Even maybe so much so like some of the most processed foods honestly on our shelves. This is just a reminder to really check the ingredients. Like when you see something's plant-based or vegan, it does not mean it's healthy. Listen, you can be vegan and have a terrible unhealthy diet, okay? So I think that's one thing just to say. Vegan, plant-based doesn't automatically mean I'm so healthy. You need to do those diets well, yeah, and eat lots of whole foods and all, you know, all of the kind of good stuff for it to be healthy. Like if you're eating all the fake meats, you're eating vegan, like plant-based alternative, ready meal stuff, like that isn't healthier. And that is really what this point is about. So if you look at the ingredients in a lot of vegan and plant-based foods, a lot of them sometimes can be very soy based, and the soy used in these like fake meats can be heavily processed, which can be quite inflammatory on the body. So that is a definite key one there. Also very aggravating to acne in some people. Not everyone, but some people find they're really sensitive to the particularly processed soy. And then the other thing, which is a massive red flag, is all the inflammatory oils. A lot of vegan alternatives or plant-based alternative rely heavily on oils. Let's use like the butters as an example. So if you're gonna get like a vegan butter, if you look at that ingredients list, it is literally just a spread of inflammatory oils, and that's all it is. There's no goodness, there's no health benefit, and they go to town on the marketing on butters. Also, another thing just to add as well to these kind of vegan plant-based, when I say this as well, I'm really referring to these like processed vegan plant-based foods. Another thing you've got to bear in mind is that it's all about replicating flavor, and another way to make things tastier and make the consumer want to have it more is adding sugar. So that's another thing you want to be watching out for, if there's any like extra glucose syrups and just, yeah, sugars in general being added into the food for a taste purpose. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is low fat. Now, when something is taken out, usually something else gets ramped up, and in this case it is the fat is taken out and the sugar is ramped up. So just be aware of this. When something is low fat, you want to check what's been added into it. Like, is there more? Sweetness is a real common one as well, particularly with low fat. They also probably will have like like a sugar-free label on the bottle as well. They go hand in hand quite commonly. So sometimes you'll see low fat and lots of sweeteners, or you may just actually find there is more sugar added into it. So do look at those nutrition labels and look at the ingredients. The other thing also to note about this point though is that when it comes to our blood glucose and our sugar response, fat plays a really big role in helping to manage those blood glucose levels. And actually you find when the fat is taken out, that actually puts your body at a more vulnerable risk for the spikes, basically, for the sugar or insulin to spike higher and have trouble with keeping that managed and controlled. So yeah, that is something to bear in mind. Like for example, if you're going to compare dairy milks, it is so much better to get the full fat option, and your body actually is going to have a much better controlled response to that in comparison to skimmed. Skimmed milk is a lot higher naturally in sugar than to full fat milk. So yeah, that's just another thing just to throw in today's video, is that low fat actually isn't necessarily better. And do remember, if you abuse your blood glucose levels and your insulin function and you develop something called insulin resistance, like if you're going low fat for weight loss, if you get insulin resistance, that's going to be your biggest problem there, because that is going to mean that one, you'll put on fat much easier, and also it'll be harder to lose it. So do look after your blood glucose levels. Honestly, like, it is such a fundamental pillar of health. Okay, and then the next thing I want to talk about are health claims. So this again is something that I see all over things in the supermarket. Gut loving, I saw skin loving recently, you know, good for your immune system, all of these different health claims being thrown out there. And for, you know, for the everyday consumer who maybe just isn't, you know, so much into learning about nutrition, my God, it's such an easy thing to gravitate towards. Like even myself, you know what I mean, even as a nutritionist, I'll see gut loving and I'm like, oh, what's that? Do you know what I mean? I pick it up, I want to look at it. And obviously I'm at the stage where I always question everything, but it's so easy for someone just to go gut loving, great, straight in my basket. Oh, I've got a bit of IBS, yeah, that'll be good for me. This honestly makes me so sad as a nutritionist, because I know that consumers are coming from the really genuine good place. Like they see, like I said, that gut loving label, and they know they're suffering with their gut and they think, oh, I'm making a really great choice. But let's take the gut loving, because I'm on this topic, as an example. So breakfast cereals. Okay, so we've got Kellogg's All Bran Golden Crunch here. Fuels a healthy gut. So this is a cereal that is meant to help heal our gut. First ingredient, wheat bran. Second ingredient, sugar. I'm sorry, but at what point did we link sugar as a healing gut food? Rice flour, wheat flour, and then we've got sunflower oil. So what's that? The fifth ingredient in, we've got an inflammatory seed oil. Then we've got maize flour, which interestingly actually, maize, that's corn, actually can be very constipating for some people. Some people's gut really don't respond well to that. Barley malt extract, raising agents, natural flavouring, that's always a very sus thing when you see that on a label. They get away with a lot under natural flavouring. And then we've got skim milk powder. So hopefully you can see that as an example, but this ingredients list, it's just inflammatory. Like, honestly, like, how is that gut healing from, besides like maybe a little bit of fibre coming from the wheat? All that sugar and also the oils inside, it's just not necessary, and you're eating this first thing for breakfast. But another thing that they get away with, and this also would contribute to them saying this is gut healing, is all the vitamins and minerals this has been fortified with. So that can be a beneficial thing. So you've got niacin, iron, vitamin B6, riboflavin, thiamine, folic acid, vitamin D and B12. So yeah, all these vitamin and minerals, that sounds absolutely great. But this is another, example where just because it has those in, it doesn't overshadow that sugar is the second ingredient in the ingredients list. Okay, so let's give another example. So this is something that I came across which said on the bottle it was a win for your skin. So that was automatically something I was like, we've got to look at this one. Pomegranate, raspberry, apple, rose water and vitamins. I mean, looking at that bottle, it sounds great, doesn't it? So if we turn this over, this has 5.5 pressed apples, a half a pressed pomegranate, 11 crushed raspberries, coconut water, a squeeze of beetroot, a squeeze of lime, rose water, a dash of spirulina extract, and some vitamins. So again, ingredients all sound, we know exactly what every single one is, all sounds very natural. Now, what I want you to bear in mind is that this bottle contains 750 mils, okay? Now, when you look at the nutrition information, they have the option of 100 mils or 150 mils, which is meant to be a serving. So it's meant to be 5 servings inside this bottle. Now, who just drinks 1 serving? I do not measure out my liquids, and that's definitely not something I would do. And this bottle, it looked, it wasn't huge. Someone could easily go through half that bottle in one sitting. So if we just look in 1 serving alone, which is 150 mils, there is 14 grams of sugar. If you were to have just 2 servings of this juice, you would have gone over what is your recommended daily sugar intake from the NHS, which is 25 grams. Now, if we go back to the health claim, remember, this is a win for your skin. Honestly, this is how they get you, because you could just drink, a quarter of this bottle and you would have potentially gone over your daily sugar intake. And that's just a drink. You've then got everything else you're having in the day, snacks or whatever it might be. And yeah, from a skin perspective, we know sugar, it can really disturb us in many different ways depending on what your imbalances are, whether it's hormones, inflammation, blood sugar levels. All of these things can contribute to acne. So yeah, this drink by no means is a win for your skin. So I think the key thing really about these health claims on these labels is that they just need a tiny little bit of something in that ingredients list to then be able just to stick that health claim on the front of the packet. So I really hope today's video is going to urge you to question some of the things you're picking up in the supermarket. Really urge you to start looking at the nutrition labels. It's not about counting calories or anything like that. It's just really just being aware of what you're putting in your body. I don't ever look at calories of a food, ever. When I'm looking at a nutrition label, I'm more looking at really the sugar content. That is probably the main thing, because that's the thing that gets played around with the most in pre-made foods. So I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the ingredients list more than anything, looking at the order of those ingredients. What is the highest, proportion inside this product? I'm looking at the quality. I'm looking at, what am I literally going to be putting in my mouth? And I think also remember, the body knows what to do with these natural ingredients. all this artificial stuff that's being added into our food, it's complete foreign. The body just doesn't know what to do with it. So also bear that in mind when you're making food choices. If you enjoyed this video and you want a part 2 to this, then please do give it a thumbs up. And also, if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos from me. But anyway guys, I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Mwah. Bye.